That's a great question. What's the biggest mistake companies make when hiring remote workers? I think the biggest mistake they make is treating them the same way they would people in the office. And I think the biggest mistake is also not planning a solid onboarding. And that's what we see, right? So just knowing that there's a little bit of a difference in onboarding between an on-site and a remote talent. How fast can a company realistically hire a remote candidate today? So this is an interesting question I get asked often. Sometimes it could be same day. I've seen an offer become same day, but oftentimes it could be never. It really depends on two things. I think people need to understand that a talented person or talent in general can take the time to review your opening. They could do some research on Glassdoor. They might be doing their own things that could slow down the process. And we have to also remember that not everyone's going to accept every job opening. So I think it has a lot to do with the kind of talent expectations you have, where if you're looking to fill a role that is really common, customer support, SDR, account executive, you might be able to go faster than if you're hiring a specialized role, such as an SDR that's trained and certified on Salesfinity or Nooks or Orem. So I think it could be as fast as same day, and it could be as fast as never. And it's really up to the job opening and the talents and their readiness to move fast. Why is hiring in Latin America becoming so popular to U.S. companies? Well, I'll be honest with you. It's because in America, 30% of the population is Latin American, right? So it's similar cultures. Many of them have already lived in America. Many of them have family in America. They speak fluent English, and their cost is 75% less just because the cost of living in places like Colombia, Argentina are 75% less. So I think for-profit companies are realizing that they have to be profitable, and they're now understanding that if they are remote, hiring a team that's dispersed around Latin America and USA has been a winning combination for many publicly traded companies, and they're catching off that now. The difference between hiring directly and using a marketplace like CloudTask has a lot to do with liability and speed. Companies that are looking to hire fast and not carry liability find the marketplace to be a huge benefit, and we are really taking out the need to put a job opening on something like LinkedIn, getting 5,000 auto applies. You got AI writing resumes, you got AI reading resumes. So people really like our marketplace because of the human verified touch, the remote career coach, and the time that we invest in actually meeting with and knowing who the candidates are. And those little nuances are the difference between a candidate who lasts 90 days and a candidate who lasts 2 to 3 years. That's an awesome question. How do you know a candidate is truly remote ready? Well, ideally, if they've had experience working remotely and a positive reference, that's a really good sign that they've worked remotely. Another sign is that they invest in a home office that's separate from the family. Candidate that has a nice home office and good internet, it really shows that they are not only working remotely, but they plan on staying to remotely. That's a great question. It really, whether a company should hire full-time or part-time remote workers depends on their business challenges and their business needs. I think that they should do part-time for really highly experienced, high salary positions. And I think they should be hiring full-time, a lot of entry and middle-level opportunities where people can move up the ladder. So it's a combination of both, to be honest with you, really depending on your budget and your needs. What is the biggest red flag in a remote candidate's profile? I would say multiple jobs that they held for 6 months or less. And I would say anybody who comes to an interview not in a private place, not with a headset on, and not with at least a collared shirt is a red flag. Why do some remote workers fail when they look perfect on paper? Because some talent has gotten better at the interview process and being hireable than they do at their job. And I think that's where you find the longevity. So really look to see if someone's lasted 12 months or more, 20 or more months or more, because you can catch that by seeing quick job hopping, right? How much do U.S. companies pay remote workers in Latin America? I think they should pay them industry average or above average. And I think that they should, it's a different for every salary, right? So I think like an entry level SDR could be $1,000 a month, all the way up to a senior at $4,000 a month. A good rule of thumb for me is divide your US salary by either 50% if you want to pay really well, or 75% if you want to be competitive. Anything more than that, you're going to be the bottom of the barrel. So I think a better rule of thumb is 50 to 75% less, a good American rate. You can definitely keep them motivated and loyal by making sure they're aligned to your company's vision and mission, mission and vision, and also making sure that payments are on time. There's no late payments, right? They're on every company call. They're included in the company culture. If you have a Christmas event, you invite them to it. So I think by just treating them like a remote worker anywhere is the key. And visiting them. I think a big thing is just to get on a plane and visit them, meet in a neutral place. If they don't have a visa for America, this is obviously if you're hiring non-American talent, but if they're in America, great. You can fly them anywhere. That would be my best advice. The best way to measure a remote candidate performance is to make sure that you're meeting your monthly revenue and net profit targets. If you're hitting your goals, it's usually a good sign that your team is performing. And if they're not, that's time to dive deeper and see who the weak link is. And unfortunately, you might have to fire fast if you find someone underperforming. Is paying in USD or local currency better for US teams? It really depends, right? I think when you find sometimes that some candidates have been working for US companies for a long time, I've met some that have US bank accounts. You have some that have preferences, right? So I think the best thing is to have a little bit of understanding that maybe a currency exchange rate can take some off the table from them, and just being more understanding that unlike USD to USD, there are some delays and some conversions that can happen. But most of the time, it makes better just to have it transferred to the local currency. In the rare occasion that the candidate has a US bank account, you can just pay them to the US bank account. How can companies prevent burnout in remote teams? I think one of the biggest things is meeting with your team and asking them if they're burned out and just communicating with them. Communication is the best way to avoid it, and creating an atmosphere where someone is comfortable to be honest with you regarding their position, how they feel, and your company's culture. So creating a culture of transparency, I think, can help avoid that kind of stuff. Wow, what perks and benefits matter most to candidates in Latin America? It's a solid base salary. I think in US culture, you find a lot of sales jobs to be 50% base, 50% commission. But in Latin American culture, it's more of an 80% base, 20% commission. And that's just how it is. I can go into why it is, but I think being respectful of someone's culture is important. And I think that what you really would find is that you're just setting a new payment structure for someone in Latin America versus America, but the KPIs could and should and will be the same. Wow, what are smart ways to reward high-performing market talent? I think quarterly, vacation days is nice, right? Stock options if your company's planning on going public or has, issued shares. I also think another good way would be some offsites and a lot of team building events seem to be really, really great for people who really care about your business versus money, if that makes sense. And that's a cultural thing and also a generational thing where I think Gen Z and the other generation ahead of Gen Z, I don't even know what it is, they really value your company's mission, vision, and that's it. Really just pay attention to who you're working with. Wow. How can a CEO build a company culture with a remote team? A lot of what I just said, I think having regular Zoom meetings with everyone's camera on is a must. Having a Slack channel or WhatsApp group where everyone's talking and chatting is huge. And I think regularly setting on-site meetings, whether it's like a holiday meeting, whether it's Christmas party, where everybody can get together. Like I said, if you're a global company in America, a place like Cancun, a place like Dominican Republic, these are awesome places where even your US team is going to be super thrilled to go to these places. And, make it fun for everybody and make it inclusive for everybody. I've seen companies that we've helped, like a company called Expensify that actually flew their staff to Turks and Caicos multiple times, right, for events. So just making it like one team and being understanding that not everybody has a visa, and that can go a long way, right? Wow. What is the biggest communication challenge remote teams face? I think it would be like not setting a communication standard. So I think a company should, really set like, hey, if we expect you to answer your email or WhatsApp after 5 or on the weekends, that's our culture. Interview for that, right? So I think just being clear with the communication before you hire is really important. Some people are going to love that. There are people out there who want to work 24/7. That might be your best picks. Or there's some people where it's a hard line. They have a family and they turn off their phone. So just really asking these questions during the interview process and establishing what communication style you want to have before you hire is very important. Wow. Should remote teams work fixed hours or flexible hours? Why? That really has to do with your job and your requirements. And I think fixed hours, I think, is the best if you're hiring full-time contractors or full-time freelancers, or they're your employees, right? I think flexible is a little bit more applicable to part-time roles or fractional roles, or roles that are more less on the schedule. So I think fixed times, unless you're hiring specific roles that require specific talent and then don't require specific times ahead of schedule. How can leaders keep remote talent accountable without micromanagement? It's by having KPIs and OKRs that are set every quarter in advance and are measured. So I think just by understanding what you're expecting from your teammates and measuring against it versus being emotional is always the best play. What role does trust play in a remote team success? A lot, especially for a company that's starting remote. The first hire, a successful hire, can mean a company hires remotely for the next 10 years, and a failed hire can mean that they will never hire remotely. So I think trust has a lot to do with it. And I think that, the direction people are going, it's undeniable that remote work is here to stay. And I think that it's up to sellers to do such a good job that they support remote work. And they should realize that, if they're taking advantage of a company or the system, they're also hurting a community of remote workers around the world. So just having a high standard of ethics can go a long way, and trust is very important. What are the must-have tools for managing a remote team? Wow. Well, you can have a tool like Hubstaff or Time Doctor, which allows remote teams to be a little more remote. These things take screenshots of your computer every 10 to 3 minutes, and it can give your employer a level of comfort knowing that while you're remote, at least you have some structure and system. So I think those are not must-haves, but I was able to use those when we were an agency. We grew to 265 employees, and it worked very well for us. And then, depending on the position, right? Like if you're hiring for sales, I think having a parallel dialer like Salesfinity is a must. Having good data from companies like, Ample Market and SalesBot is a must. And I think if you're doing customer support, having a nice support chat is a must. So I think there's a lot of must-haves within the role. But overall, I think giving your team the right tools to compete with other companies is important. Wow, how is AI changing remote work today in so many different ways, right? I think you're getting a lot more AI writing resumes and a lot of AI reading resumes. That's kind of why people value the human verified videos that we do personally. So it's actually increasing a lot of people's abilities to learn on their own and get skilled up, but it also increases a lot of ability for fraud, right? So I think you also find that you need to be a little bit careful when you're looking at someone in an interview. Make sure they're not wearing a filter. If that's your culture, you want to know what they look like, and you don't want them in a avatar. So you're getting a lot of a little bit more fraud when it comes to the sense of what people can do to trick you, right? Which you have to be careful of, but you're also getting a lot more self-educated talent, which is great. So you're getting the good and the bad. What is the best CRM for remote revenue teams? Well, we use HubSpot. I think HubSpot's great. Salesforce, I think, is something that just never goes away, and I think it's really, really good. There's a company called Attio, Attio, which is claiming that they're like the new AI of CRM. So I keep an eye on them, HubSpot and Salesforce. How can AI help companies hire faster and smarter? In every way. You can use it to review videos these days, to review transcripts, to review your own interviews. So I think you could use it in your hiring process, in your review process, and you could also use it to even do things like, hey, check on this person's social media profiles here and there. Are there any red flags? Are there any green flags? So I think you can take all the things you're doing already to vet the candidate and just do it faster, cheaper, and more efficient. Oh, wow. What tools help remote workers stay productive and visible? You can't get away without having ChatGPT, right? I think ChatGPT is the #1, which is great. I'm a big fan now of using Perplexity, but for their browser called Comet. That's one of the best tools out there. And then I would say from that, using also Grok and just using Llama. So like using the big 4 LLMs and just having them talk to each other is a big win. And we can go on for days on other ones, so I'm going to leave it at that. Remote candidates can stand out to U.S. employers if they're on our marketplace by having a super clear title that lists their most recent wins. Like, I help generate 3 million ARR for this company. I help maintain a 9.3 NPS score. Mentioning the softwares you use and doing, if you're doing a video, being dressed nicely, in a blazer. So like the nicer you dress, usually you never really lose points for dressing nice. And I think just being super clear and spoken, and this also rolls into having a really good LinkedIn profile, right? So having a really clear LinkedIn profile is a must. And that kind of rolls up into our world, obviously, as well, because we're like a LinkedIn profile with a video with more information, right? So I think just being super clear, dressed well, and mentioning the softwares they use, I think, is a big deal. I think people want to hire somebody who's experienced in a tool versus, I went to school for biology. That's cool, right? But if you're not applying for a biology job, you might want to talk about how you used tools like Salesfinity, ChatGPT, and all these things to make your job faster. What should a great video introduction include? I think clearly your name, your background, kind of position you're looking for, and why a company should work for you. How does CloudTask help candidates hire faster? Well, the truth is we built a huge community and a program called SkillBridge, where we plan on taking all of the free tools out there, whether it's free or paid, from various companies, and sharing it with candidates. We also create a WhatsApp community so everybody can chat and ask questions and help each other. And then we have a program called Boost, where we actually will go in, improve the headline, improve the banner of LinkedIn, and proactively help people get hired. So I think just really focusing on the things that people need to get hired is where we live, like how to interview, how to dress, right? What kind of jobs to get, what kind of salary range to go for, is how we do this. So it's community and SkillBridge and Boost. What are the top mistakes candidates make when applying for remote jobs? I would say is not accepting the reality that you're competing with the best of the best. And for every job opening, there could be 10,000 applications and only one person who gets hired, which means 999 people didn't get the job. And I think people need to understand you're competing against the best. Bring your best foot forward, right? And failure is success. The more rejections you get, the more you'll learn from them. And it's always best to ask. If you don't mind me asking, why was I not accepted? Is there anything I could have done better, right? So I think you're competing with the best of the best, and you only get stronger from failure. Anybody who sees this, watches this, wants to be part of the CloudTask job community, part of SkillBridge, part of Boost, sign up by going to cloudtask.com. It's free. We're here to help. Feel free to DM me or ask any questions. I look forward to helping you through your career. Take care.